What are you saying, ladies and gents? It is your boy Bucket Sam, and we are back again today for another video. Today's video, I'm going to be going in and discussing who deserves to be the manager of the season. And I think the biggest thing with this, before we get into any detail, is this is always up for discussion and there is no right answer. So please don't cook me in the comments, but I'm going to give you my honest thoughts and analyze each person and decide whether they deserve even to get a mention. Because I feel like there's quite a few people that have been left out that potentially should have been nominated. And I think the biggest thing when discussing and deciding who deserves to be the manager of the season is you've got a reflection, because I think that is one of the biggest things. You've got to reflect on it, stand back, and all put biases aside, because that always has a big part to play in this thing. And not only that, try and move away recency bias, try and think about the season as a whole and their reign. And another thing as well is expectations. I think that is a massive part of it, because a lot of the time we see managers who ever win the league win it instantly. So we've seen Pep Guardiola win it quite a few times, and in the past we've seen Tony Pulis win it so a few times. But I think that's the biggest thing, expectations. I think that is a big thing you've got to think about when discussing these. So let's go into it. The first manager I'm going to discuss is Marco Silva. And now I think expectation is huge when we're discussing this. And recency bias is quite huge, because realistically, the form hasn't been ideal. Yes, I know in the last three games they picked up, but they were on kind of a bit of a dip in form. They're currently sat 10th in the league. And I think the biggest thing with this is everyone had them to go down, including myself. I think I'd got them to finish 18th. And I think no one expected them to do so well, especially with a manager in Marco Silva who, let's be honest, did well at Watford in the Premier League, but then really struggled at Everton. So I think that's another part that you've got to kind of really think about things with expectations and looking at it at Fulham to say, could you imagine if you said before at the start of the season, Fulham could finish in the top 10, Fulham could finish in the top half of the table? You'd have laughed at anyone who said that. That's like a ridiculous thing. And especially when you look at the squad. The squad's good, don't get me wrong, but you looked at that squad before the start of the season, when you looked at players like Willian and you looked at players like that Mitrovic, questions about whether he could score enough in the Premier League. He's got this side playing absolutely brilliant. They've won 15 games this season. 15 games. Just wow. Absolutely brilliant. Over 50 points. They're guaranteed to make the top 10 no matter what. Actually, sorry, tell a lie. They're guaranteed to stay in the exact same position no matter what happens with results. They are going to stay exactly where they are. So they've finished 10th in the league. And I think that is huge in itself. And I think that is a great achievement. So he's definitely should have been nominated. And to be honest, he's one of the front runners for me, because I think the job he's done is absolutely massive. Because again, it's expectations. Reflecting on it as a whole season, that is a huge achievement. To get a side like Fulham, which are known as being a bit of a yo-yo team. They've spent money in the past and it didn't work out. You think about the Scott Parker era. You think about things like that. It doesn't always work out. It's not an easy job. So yeah, definitely deserves to be nominated. Next, we've got Unai Emery. So Villa could get European football. Currently, at the time of recording, they're in the Europa Conference League spot, which is a huge achievement, especially when you think about when Steven Gerrard came in. I think this is a massive job, like a huge job that he's done. And expectations when he came in, that's the different side of this, though, because of expectations, because Steven Gerrard had dropped those expectations. When you look at that Villa squad, it really should be fighting in around here. It definitely should have been in the top 10. Like, it's ridiculous when you look at that squad and thought, that was in a relegation battle. That is a great squad. So in the sense of expectations would drop down because of Steven Gerrard. When you actually look at it and reflect on this side, I don't think don't get me wrong, it's a good job, but I don't think it's one of the best jobs this season. And I know that will be a bit controversial, but I look at it and think, do you know what? They really should be fighting in this side. This side has cost over, I think it's 300 million. I saw something recently they've spent in recent years, over the last 5 or 6 years on this squad. Like, it's a very, 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 very good squad. A lot of internationals in that team. And you look at it, you think, do you know what? They should be fighting on all cylinders. But then again, expectations when he first came in, yes, he's considered to be one of the best managers in Europe, and he definitely is. We've seen it already at the Villa. They were in a relegation battle. So yeah, this is. I think he deserved a nomination, but I don't think he's one of the managers for me that deserve to be right at the top. He'd probably be like my fifth mention. He's not one of my first choice, and I don't think he's really a front runner to win the award. Let's be honest. That's just me personally. You can let me know, and if you haven't already, please do smash the like button and do subscribe. Next, we have got Mikel Arteta. Now, this is the one that sparks the most interesting debate. This is the one when we talk about expectations, we talk about reflecting. There's lots and lots of layers to this. The biggest thing for me, before the start of the season, no one thought that Arsenal would be in a title challenge, even just in a title race, let's be honest. And I know they kind of fell on their own sword towards the end of the season, losing 3 games in the last 5. It wasn't ideal, but they're guaranteed to finish second place. They took Man City pretty much nearly the whole way, which is a great achievement. And that is where I think expectations, they've done really well. But then when you reflect on it as a season, they did kind of drop off. When the going got tough, Mikel Arteta couldn't get that side to compete with that Man City side. So overall, I think it's a great job that he's done to get them into that title race, to get them to second place. But quite clearly, he doesn't deserve to win Manager of the Year because he fell at the final hurdle. The most important thing, because again, this side's cost a lot of money. It's not like it's a huge job, if you know what I mean. Like, it's a great job, but it's not the best. So Mikel Arteta had a great season at Arsenal, some really good results, some really good performances, but overall, for me, doesn't deserve to be manager of the season. Now, next, I'm going to be talking about Zerbi. Now, this is a very interesting one. I watched the game as a recording in the game was last night against Manchester City, and that was an absolute cracker of a game. And Brighton have probably been one of my most favourite teams to watch this season. I absolutely love watching them play. They're just the ruthlessness, the drive with that team. They just keep on going, and it is just all gung ho football, and it's great football. You watch them play against Man City, passing out from the back. They've got some really exciting young players, and that's what I really like about this. And they've gelled it nicely. They've got players like they're getting Milner in next season. They've got Lallana in the squad, so they've got a mixture of young and old with Lewis Dunk and things like that. So they've blended this side really well. And let's be honest, reflecting on the season, this has been absolutely massive, this achievement. When you think about it, Graham Potter left, and it was their highest ever achievement at that time. They lost Kukurea, and everyone was going, and they lost Trossard, and everyone was thinking, oh, this isn't going to go well, this isn't going to bode well. They have guaranteed themselves Europa League football. They've finished above Tottenham and Chelsea. They are sixth spot. They're guaranteed it. That is absolutely amazing. As a season, that is a huge achievement when you look at that squad as well. So many players who haven't played in the Premier League before. I know there's a few experienced boys, but as we said, there's a lot of young players and they're playing so well. So I think this is a huge achievement. I think this is arguably bigger than the Arsenal achievement. I think this is bigger than Unai Emery's job. I think it's bigger than Marco Silva's, because I just think of expectation and reflecting on the whole season. No one, not a single, not even Brighton fans, even thought there was any way that this side would be competing for Europa League. Let's be honest, it's a huge achievement, absolutely amazing, and they've done it so well. That's the biggest thing for me. It's not only the fact that they've done that and they've got that Europa League football, it's the way they did it, the manner in which they did it, and they've been so good to watch this season. So for me, De Zerbi is arguably in the top two for this, if I'm honest. He definitely has to be up there because he's had such a great season. Do you get what I'm trying to say about reflecting and expectations? That's what I think the 2 points you've always got to go back to. Reflecting on it, is it a great achievement? Yes. Expectations, no one expected it, so that's a great achievement. So I think he definitely deserves to be in there. Next, or you could say deserves. It's bad banter, poor from me. Next, we've got Eddie Howe. Now, this is another interesting one. And I think a lot of this, when you reflect on it, you think about the job he did when he took on from Steve Bruce, when that last season was absolutely amazing. And the fact that they've guaranteed themselves Champions League football is absolutely massive. That is ridiculous when you think about it. You think about some of the likes of players that they've got in that squad. Yes, I know they've invested and they've signed a few good players. Yes, they've got a few good and they've signed well. But still, they should not be competing at that level. It's similar to Brighton. They should not have gone that high up. And I know you can say, oh, well, Liverpool having an off season, Tottenham are having an off season, Chelsea. Not only that, Brighton and Newcastle are having great seasons. Newcastle Football Club are going to be in the Champions League, in the top four. When was the last time, other than really Leicester, anyone's really pushed into this top four and actually like full on got themselves in there? And I think the biggest thing with Eddie Howe, I know it's not for this video, is how they move on for next year. Can they stay at this level? Because a lot of players have been absolutely brilliant this season. And again, reflecting on it, it's been a great season. Expectations, I think everyone expected them to really be pushing for that top 10, maybe sneaking a European spot. But I don't think anyone for a second would have thought they'd guarantee themselves Champions League football with a game to go. That is absolutely massive. One absolutely brilliant achievement. And I think they've done it again so well. And I just can't get my head around it. Beating Man United, beating Liverpool to get into that top four. And you think about Liverpool last season, we're in the Champions League final. It's absolutely mental. What a ridiculous achievement, I think, for Eddie Howe. And I think, again, the manner in which they've done it is great. So I definitely think this guy, again, for me, is in those few that definitely deserve a full mention. All of these managers obviously deserve a mention, but I think these are the ones that the candidates that actually could genuinely win it, in my opinion, and deserve to win it. Last but not least, we've got Pep Guardiola. And now this one is the biggest one that always sparks the most debate, because everyone says he deserves to win it. Well, my opinion on this situation is Man City have the best squad in the league. they're expected to win. So yes, it's a great achievement to win the league, and obviously it's not an easy thing. And Arsenal took them the whole way, but I don't think he deserves to be manager of the season because that's expectation. And reflecting, it's a great achievement because they didn't look like they'd do it at the start of the season. But then expectation, they are expected to win the league with that squad. When you looked at the bench they had last weekend against Chelsea, and they got over £500 million worth of players on that bench. You think about it, that's again expectation. They're expected to do it. So I think it's a great achievement, deserves to be in a mention, but I don't think he deserves to win manager of the season just for that. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say here. He has to win the league every year with that squad. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So I think he deserves to be in there, but he's not one for me that deserves to win it. One manager I think it's absolutely disgusting that hasn't even got a mention is Gary O'Neill. How is Gary O'Neill? Expectations. He has kept up Bournemouth. Bournemouth, pretty much every single person on this planet, including myself, every pundit had written off Bournemouth. And what an achievement. He came in after Scott Parker, got the job on temporary, then got it on a permanent. And I know the football hasn't been great. And if you look at XG models and things like that, they shouldn't have stayed up. But that just shows you how good a job he's done. The fact that he's kept them up and comfortably, they've stayed up. And currently, before the end of this recording, they are currently sat in 15th spot, which is an absolutely ridiculous achievement. 8 points clear of the drop zone. I think that arguably is a bigger achievement than your likes of the Villa getting European football. I think it's a bigger achievement than Man City winning the league or Arsenal pushing on. I think that's a ridiculous achievement. And it's because I think it's not as glamorous, is it really, to discuss this? So I personally think Gary O'Neill's unlucky not to get a shout. But overall, my winner and the person who I believe deserves to be manager of the season is De Zerbi. De Zerbi and Eddie Howe are the two for me, but I think De Zerbi deserves it. Deserves it. I'm saying so many deserve and deserve and deserve. But you know what I've said? I've made all my points clear, and hopefully you agree. To sum it up, a great achievement. No one expected them to go on and to do so well and to get European football on that with that squad. With that budget is absolutely massive and huge for the club to push on forward because no one expected it after Graham Potter left because he was considered to be the Messiah at Brighton, but he's taken Brighton on to another level. Hopefully you agree with me. Hopefully you understand my points. And hopefully you discuss in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. But thank you for watching. Bucket Sam, over and out. Thank you. Goodbye.